Hey guys, so you're about to complete your first writing tools assignment, and I just wanted to kind of go over some major pieces to make sure you feel comfortable with what you're turning into me. All right, some common mistakes in academic writing. You should not have any contractions. So make sure before you turn something in, you're not using things like don't, won't, can't, anything with that apostrophe where you're blending two words together. We don't want that in academic writing. It's absolutely fine when you're talking to people. It's a form of a slang, so it's fine in casual conversation. But the moment you're putting something in writing, it's going to live forever, ever, amen. And so you don't want to have casual slang in academic writing. Also, make sure you're spelling out any number that is smaller than 10. So if for some reason you are writing in your sentence and you're having to refer to numbers, make sure that numbers smaller than 10 are spelled out. Numbers 11 and higher, you can actually use the numeric symbols 1, 1, 1, 2, 1, 3. Also, make sure that when you are making your compound sentences that you are adding that comma. We think in compound sentences, we talk in compound sentences, but make sure you're punctuating them correctly. Along with that, make sure you don't have run-on sentences. Sometimes it's very easy to add several sentences together with an and or a but or an or, but make sure compound sentences is going to be one sentence, comma conjunction, one sentence, period. You're not going to have 2, 3, 4 sentences slammed together. And then last, in academic writing, you want to use no personal pronouns unless the prompt is specifically asking. So with this writing tool assignment, you may find that you're using I, me, my, you. But once you start writing essays, you will almost never use a personal pronoun. It will be very clear that it's your idea because it's your paper. You don't have to emphasize that by using that personal pronoun. All right. The other thing that you read about last week in chapter 1 is about writer's block. And writer's block can happen with assignments like this, just like it can happen with major essays. So don't procrastinate. Don't wait until Sunday at 10 p.m. to sit down to do your assignment. Try free writing in the beginning, kind of fleshing some ideas out. And then from those ideas, you can take your own spin to create your assignment. Follow your inspiration, write about things you care about. Break up the writing project into pieces. So for today, you may want to watch part of this video and then pause and go do something before coming back to write some more. Review the assignment and rubric first so you know what your goal is and what you're trying to do. Verbalize your ideas to a friend, talk it out with family members, discuss it over dinner. The more you think through it, the deeper your ideas will become and the clearer your thoughts and your details will be. As you write, think about a friendly audience. That sometimes helps if you visualize who you're writing to. Make sure you take breaks. And then if you really start to feel stuck, sometimes just getting up and changing your location makes a difference. During the course of the day, as I'm grading papers or writing assignments, I'll start off in my office. I'll move to the living room. Sometimes I sit on the front porch. I move to the dining room. But getting up and moving definitely helps for you to kind of reset and start again. All right, so the next part of this video is going to be walking you through the 3 paragraphs you're going to build. So if you want to go ahead, pause the video, pull up your Word document. Don't forget you need to set it up in MLA format. So the first thing you're going to do is open up your new blank document. You're going to select the line and paragraph spacing, which is that 4 lines with the 2 blue arrows, and you're going to click for 2.0 so that it's double spaced. Then you want to change your font style to Times New Roman 12-point font. And then you want to follow the MLA guidelines for your name. So it'll be your name, my name, English 1101, and then the due date. So by now you should have your heading, your name, my name, English 1101, and the due date. You also want to make sure that you're in 12-point font, everything's double spaced. And then last, you want to add your header. And so you can go ahead and go to Insert, go to Page Number. You want to make sure you're clicking the top right, and then you're going to add your last name in front of it. All right, so let's talk about the 3 writing tools we're going to be discussing this week. The first one is description. And description is important for writers because you are appealing to the senses. And so think through all those senses you have: eyes, ears, mouth, nose, touch. And you want to use those details when appropriate to help paint a picture. Whenever you can be specific, you are going to be able to help your reader understand your point better. What description does is it allows abstract ideas to become more tangible and relatable to the reader. I always think about history teachers here. You know, you can have kind of a boring history teacher. They're relating facts to you, but it's really hard to kind of visualize what the time period was really like. But when you have that enchanting history teacher that you love going to their class, what they do is they make history come alive. You see the people, you understand their struggle, you know their customs, their traditions, the way they dress, the things that are important to them. Well, the difference between the two is the description. It's taking something abstract, like, ooh, the plague was bad, and it's making it tangible, relatable, something that you can see, so you realize, oh, when you say bad, you mean like bad, bad. Your readers will find almost anything you write easier if it is something that they can comprehend and they can see in great detail. So I can tell you that we went fishing. I could even tell you we went fishing one early, peaceful morning. But for some of you, you're picturing a creek. For others of you, it's a pond. Some of you may be thinking the big ocean. It's so vague. There's multiple stories going on depending on who you are and what you're exposed to or you know about life. When I take that idea and I add more description, we have something that ends up looking like this. We went fishing the first morning. I felt the same damp moss covering the worms in the bait can, and I saw the dragonfly alight on the top of my rod as it hovered a few inches from the surface of the water. Well, now all of a sudden, you know exactly what type of fishing they did. It's somewhere on land with damp moss. You know what time of day it is. You know what type of bait they used. You know how nature was interacting with them. You can start to picture and see it. And so that's the power of description, is taking a fact you need them to know and allowing them to visualize it so it becomes part of who they are. For your first paragraph this week, you're going to write a descriptive paragraph. You're going to focus on using description. So you've got 2 choices. You can either write a paragraph describing your perfect meal, and with that, you're going to want to make sure that someone can visualize it, they can smell it, they can taste it, they can maybe even hear pieces of it as it's cooking or it's being set on the table or as it's crunching. But you really want to make sure you are getting very specific with the description so that it can clearly be seen. Your other option is to describe your favorite holiday moment, but make sure you're paying attention. It's not the entire holiday, it's a moment, because you're only writing 1 paragraph. So a lot of people choose Christmas at this time, but you can't describe Christmas from beginning to end in 1 paragraph. Pick a special moment. The moment someone opens a gift, a moment someone sits down for Christmas dinner, a moment someone wakes up to see Santa Claus. But be specific and keep that time frame small. With this, I'm looking at several things. I'm looking to see that you are able to use description and that you are revising your paragraph to add in your senses, sight, smell, taste, touch, sound. But I'm also making sure that you understand the parts of the paragraph. And if you need to go back into last week and double check that, make sure you do that. But you should have a topic sentence, you should have supporting details, you should have concluding sentence, and you should have transition words. This means you are not going to sit down in front of your computer, write a paragraph, and be done. You're going to keep revising and keep adjusting and keep making your paragraph stronger by making sure you have the pieces, and within your supporting details, you're focused on the description piece that's so important. Some people find it really helpful to write this out of order. So they find that starting with your supporting details and focusing in on description is important because that's the main piece of the paragraph. Then going back and adding topic sentence and concluding sentence in an appropriate place, because they're going to be similar and because they're there for the reader, not necessarily the writer, to set the tone and set the focus. And then last, adding necessary transition words in the paragraph so that sentences flow one to the other. You can go ahead and pause the video if you want to write your descriptive paragraph now. If you want to go ahead and learn about classification, that's what we'll talk about next. When you classify something, you state what category it belongs to and why it belongs into that group. So my people who are super organized, super OCD, you always are walking around trying to straighten things up, that's what the writing tool classification is. You have all these ideas and you start thinking, how do I explain it? Let me put it into groups. Let me give it a title. Let me give it a heading. Let me give it a home that it belongs to, and everything there is similar to it. It's a way of understanding the world and the way we order the world. Classifications have to have a spot for every item. So you can't just make two groups and then have something that kind of fits in between and you don't know which one to put it in. That means you have holes in your classification. That means your classifications are not quite correct yet. So here we've got two examples. One paragraph says, over time, I've begun putting my bad neighbors into one of three categories: too friendly, unsociable, and irritable. First, neighbor does not understand social boundaries. See how we have a group and then we're explaining what that group means? You may find them knocking on your door early in the morning or talking your ear off long past dark. See how we're describing what that group is so people can see it? Next, an unsociable neighbor is never present. If your house were to be on fire, an unsociable neighbor would not bother to peek out from behind their curtains to call 911. Lastly, an irritable neighbor can never be satisfied. Your grass is cut too often, your weeds are not pulled quickly enough, or you have too many lights on in your house after dark. Maybe a few of many complaints they file your way. Remember, good fences make good neighbors. You may be more blessed than you realize. So there we have a classification. We're taking bad neighbors and we're putting them into three groups. We're defining them, we're describing them, and by the end, people can realize why those three groups exist. With our other example, neighbors can be irritating in many unique ways. For example, my neighbor talks too much. My husband and I often hide from them when we arrive home from work to avoid a long conversation. Your neighbors may be irritating in a different way. This paragraph doesn't work as a classification because we don't have groups. You're giving me one example of one irritating neighbor, but all neighbors who are irritating don't fall into this category. So as you are creating your classification paragraph, make sure you're thinking about the whole picture. You're not just checking a box, creating a group, and calling it done. You're making sure that you're looking at a subject, you're breaking it into equal groups, and you're describing them evenly. So, for your second paragraph, you can either classify different types of hobbies, or you can classify different type of people waiting in line. So you pick which subjects you want to write about. You're forming a paragraph using classification as your writing tool. So you can break up different groups of hobbies, or you can break up people in waiting in line into different types of people. It is up to you. But again, along with looking at classifications as your supporting details, I'm also looking to see that you're creating a topic sentence, supporting details that connect and make sense, a concluding sentence, and transition words that help your information flow from one idea to the other. If you want to go ahead and press pause so you can create this paragraph, you certainly may. But if you would rather keep watching all of it and then go back, that is certainly your choice. The last paragraph you're going to be writing today focuses on the writing tool of processes. So a process is a series of actions, and when you analyze or explain a process, you're breaking it down into a number of steps. You can have two different types of processes. You can either have a directive process where you are telling the reader how to do something, and by the end of your directive process, they should be able to do it also. The other option is an explanatory process, and that's where you're telling the reader how something works or is made so they understand the idea behind it. The human mind is naturally analytical, so we're always analyzing, taking things apart, trying to understand it. Therefore, we want to see how pieces of a process fit together. When you're able to use the tool of processes in your papers, you're able to help someone understand that natural curiosity they have so they understand an abstract idea in an easier way. So one example of this can be seen in the paragraph on the left. The first step in making a pound cake is to take a fat, such as butter or shortening, or a combination of the two, and beat it with an electric mixer. This incorporates air bubbles, then sugar is sprinkled slowly into the butter. You can keep reading through this paragraph and you can see it's going through the process of how to make a pound cake. But their purpose is to explain why we take these steps, not for you to necessarily get in the kitchen and make a pound cake with them. So the paragraph on the left is an example of an explanatory process. We start off with a topic sentence. We're filled with supporting details, and then we end with a concluding sentence. The paragraph on the right is an example of a directive process. You should be able to follow this paragraph in order to do the process yourself. So backing out of a carport is easy. Topic sentence makes it very clear. It's giving you directions of how to back out of a carport. First, turn on the ignition. Next, put the car in reverse. Slowly step on the gas. Lastly, back out of the garage while cutting the steering wheel right. And as you go through this paragraph on the right, you can see where it's breaking the steps down logically. It's using transition words to show you how to go from one idea to another. And the goal of teaching you how to back out of the carport is directing you in the process so that you can do it too. Again, it's still following topic sentence, supporting details, concludents, and it's got transition words sprinkled in between. So for your last paragraph, you have the choice. You can either describe how to brush your teeth in one paragraph, or you can describe how to take the best photograph with a smartphone. Make sure as you create this process paragraph, you have a topic sentence, you've got supporting details, you have a concluding sentence, and you're using transition words. With any assignment you turn into me, you need to make sure you understand how I'm grading you. So with this assignment, I'm grading you on 5 pieces. The first thing I'm going to be looking at is that you are using MLA format. And to get all of the points, make sure that you have your MLA formatting accurate. You have a header, you have a heading, and you are double spaced. The next thing I'm going to be looking at is your description paragraph. And to get full credit, I need to make sure that you have a well-written paragraph. We're looking one paragraph, which should be about 5 to 8 sentences long. And you need to make sure you have a topic sentence, you have supporting details, you have a concluding sentence, and you have transition words, all of which is using the writing tool of description. Next, I'll be looking at your classification paragraph, and I'm looking at the exact same things. I'm looking to see that you have a topic sentence, you have a supporting details, you have concluding sentence, you have transition words, and it's a well-written paragraph using the classification tool. Then I'll be looking at your process paragraph. And you'll notice this is repetitive, but I'm looking at the same thing. I want to see that you have a topic sentence, you have supporting details, you have a concluding sentence, and you have transition words. And you're using the process writing tool in order to create a well-written paragraph. And then last, I'm looking at your grammar and word choice. So the writer needs to demonstrate a mastery of vocabulary and sentence fluidity. You need no more than 3 errors in mechanics that can be found, and it does not need to distract from the message of the paper. This is where you need to make sure sentences are capitalized. They're complete sentences and not fragments. You're punctuating compound and complex sentences correctly, and you're using appropriate vocabulary for academic writing, which means no contractions and no personal pronouns unless it's absolutely necessary. So this covers the 3 writing tools that you're using for this week. It reviews the rubric, and it reminds you to put your paper in MLA format.